Okay, so I thought I was gonna do a whole lesson on array list and solving problems with array list, but um, I think what we really need to do to solve these problems is to look at the very first problem you're going to come across when solving these problems. And so let's look at a test from the past. Okay, so this is a test, and if you look at this test, so this is the programming problem right here, and down here you have an example input file, and so this is something that's going to be put on a flash drive for you, and you're going to save it to your computer, and there's going to be a file called binary.dat. Okay, so that's the name of this file right here, and this is going to allow you to test your implementation, and this is what the answer you should get when you read or when you read this file and do what they want you to do from this problem. Now, most people that get into UIL computer science, when they're coming from pre-AP or AP computer science, the main issue is, how do we read information from a file? Okay, and so for these UIL computer science problems, we don't actually have these files, so we would have to create them. Creating them is not a huge deal. So let's actually look at creating one of these, and then we're going to look at reading the file in. Okay, so to create them, we're just going to use Notepad. Okay, well, we can use Notepad++, it doesn't matter to me. And so here, let's just go ahead and get rid of some of these things we don't need. Okay, yeah, just get rid of this. Okay, so we have this blank file. You can do this in Notepad or Notepad++. And so usually they'll give you the input, or what is expected from the input, and the first line of input is going to contain a single int that indicates the number of test cases, and then from there you'll have all your test cases. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Let's just go ahead and create this little file. We'll have 4, 33, 85. Okay, and so I don't want to hit enter right here because this makes it have a new line, and your program is going to think that, or if you have your reader is going to basically it's going to be thinking that there's going to be more information down here, and you don't want that. Okay, so we have this file, and I'm just going to do a save as. Actually, let's see where BlueJ is actually saving. Okay, users Gatewood, period 8 copy. Alright. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and save as. Okay, and we're going to save as elite.dat. Okay, so all types, we're going to say elite.dat. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my local users, D Gatewood, and I should have a copy of period 8. And does this have movies, animals, zoo? Yep, this is the right one. So I'm going to save elite.dat to my directory for this program. Okay, so I'm just going to save it, and now it is definitely saved in period 8 elite.dat. Okay, And so now what I want to do is I want to be able to read that file. Okay, so let's just go ahead and go into Java, and we're going to create a new class. And usually this class, when you're thinking in terms of the competition, it needs to be named the exact name they put here. So this is elite.java, and so it is, our program is going to be called elite. All right, and so inside this program, we're going to do a few things. The first thing we're going to do see here. I think I'm missing something. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and import what we need to get this file read. So we're going to import java.io.all, and we're also going to import java.util.all. Okay, and here we're just going to, inside our program, we're just going to have a single method, and it's going to be our public static void main. Okay, so public static void main string args. Now here's the thing, up to this point in Java, you've probably been used to just seeing this, okay? But if you are trying to read in files, there are a lot of things that could go wrong when you're reading a file. For instance, you could have a file that's not there. You could have an empty file. You could have a corrupted file. You could have a file that is misnamed. Okay, so you're thinking it's one name and it's actually named something else. So a lot of different things can go wrong, and your program needs to account for that. Now, we could account for that individually by throwing those exceptions, but what we really want to do is just throw a general exception. And so here, to throw exceptions, so we're going to say throws IO exception. It could help, would help if I could type. And so what this is saying is that if there's any problem, it's just going to throw the error and we'll be done. Okay, it's not going to freeze up, it's not going to do anything, it's not going to behave weirdly. We're just going to throw the problem and move on. Okay, so how do we move on from here? Well, now we need to get scanner. Now we're used to scanner, okay, but we're used to saying scanner system.in, and so that's taking keyboard, the keyboard input. But what we want is the scanner for taking data from a file, and so that the way we do that is we have our scanner, and then just like before, just like we know how to do, we have new scanner, and then here we're going to have new file. Okay, and so this is the this is where the name of our file is going to go, and so our file in quotation marks is called elite.dat. Okay, so now we can read our file. Okay, and what you do now is you want to read the first line. Okay, and so how do we read the first line? Well, basically, whatever information we read from a file, it is going to be a string. Okay, it doesn't, even if the number is an int, because we know it's an integer form, but this is actually stored as a string. Okay, so we have to do something special to that. And so what we're going to do to read it in is we're going to say string input is equal to, here we're going to say in dot next line, and that's it. Okay. Now, oftentimes you want to not just take next line, but you might want to say dot trim. Okay. Now, why do you want to say trim? What does trim do? Well, trim gets rid of any white space, like enters or spaces or anything before and after the actual data that we're going to use. Okay. And so if you don't put trim, those white spaces and everything could actually mess with your conversions into other things. Okay, and so here what we're going to do is then we're just to make sure that we're working, we're going to say system.out.print line, and we're going to say okay, so let's just make sure that this is working. So we get no compiler errors, and I'm going to go ahead and run elite, and we get the first number is 4. All right, so that's great. You know, that's exactly what we were hoping for. And what this 4 is doing is saying that there are 4 pieces of data in this file. All right. Now, I'm so sorry. There are 4 pieces of data in this file. Now, what we want to do is we want to then save those 4 pieces of data. Okay. Now, what we could do at this point, we could do 2 things. We could create an array. So we know the size of the array. The size of the array is 4. And so we're going to say int an array of integers, and we're going to say nums is equal to new int, and here is a size, and this is going to be input. But if we just say input here, okay, and we compile it, there is incompatible types. We have a string that's being read from the file, and it can't be converted to an int. So what we want to do is we want to convert this number right here to an integer. And so to do that, what we do is we say integer dot parsent and we just surround that whole thing, the string that we're getting, with integer.parsent. Okay, and if we compile this, let's see here. Oh, so that's just because we left this here. And so now we're actually getting an integer for that. And so we're just going to say int right there. And now we have no errors. Okay, so if it were doubles, we would say double.parseDouble. All right. So that takes care of the 2 main ones, integers and doubles. Or you could just, if it's just strings that you're wanting, you could get rid of this and just take in the next line. All right. But here, this is going to store this is going to create our array with this size 4. And now we want those other 4 numbers. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 4. And guess what? We are going to say basically the same thing again. Okay? And we could just do this in one step, but what we're going to say is nums at I is equal to input. All right, and so this is going to go loop through this, and every time it's going to read the next line. Okay, so it advances itself through the file. Here, after it has read this, it is now on the second line, waiting for us to tell it to read another line, and then it would go to the third, the fourth, and fifth. So this for loop is going to advance through the whole file, okay? And then just to be sure, we're going to print this out, okay? So I'm just going to copy this loop again and get rid of this. And I'm going to say system.out.println, and we're going to say we have nums at I. Okay, and so that does that. So let's go ahead and compile that and run it. And let's see if this does what we want it to do. No such element. Oh. No such element. So here we say, oh, that's because we're using this input thing. Here we're just going to say val. Okay, that's probably, we're just going to get the next val. We don't want to overwrite input because that's the first number that we use. And this is the, if we overwrite it here and say 1,000, well now input's 1,000 and it's going to be expecting 1,000 lines of input. All right, until it reads the next number, and that number may be even smaller or larger than that. So we don't want to override that. What we want to do is create a new value that gets updated each iteration. And so yeah, all right, so let's go ahead and compile. And what we want to do is run. And we get all of our values. In fact, we can go ahead and look at our file just to make sure that they are the same. And so we had 4, 33, 85, and exactly what we wanted. Okay? So now that we have these numbers, then we could start attacking the problem. Okay? So now we know what to do. Now we just need to get the logic. And so this step right here, reading in this file, is often the hardest thing, okay, for someone coming from pre-AP or AP computer science and having not done any kind of file in and out. This part is easy to get lost on, but once you do like 5 or 10 problems where you're reading in this file and you're using, we use scanner, so there's nothing new to use. It's just you're calling the file that you want to read from. That's it. And then you use next line just like you do from the keyboard, and everything is fine. Okay? So just keep that in mind. All you're doing is adding this new little thing, new file. All right? And you read through that. Now let's go ahead and look at that problem. And it said, the sieve of Eratosthenes, I'm familiar with this thing, but I'm having trouble just saying the name, okay, is a well-known process for finding the prime numbers by the following process. This is actually, by the way, a pretty slow process. So first it lists all the natural numbers from 1 to infinity, starting with the number 2. Do not mark out the number 2, but do mark out every second number thereafter. Then starting with the number 3, do not mark out the number 3, but mark out every third number thereafter. And continue this process forever. Okay? And so basically what that is doing is getting rid of the non-prime numbers. Okay? So this is starting with the number 2, do not mark out the number 2, but then every second number after that, which is going to be an even number, you're just mark those out. Okay. Um, and so basically, what this is saying is the first line of input indicates the number of test cases. Each of the end lines will contain a single natural number smaller than 1500. For each natural number, you will print elite if it is an elite number, or not an elite if it is not an elite number. Okay, so it seems like this wouldn't be too hard to program, but I think we're gonna have to pick the programming part of this up on Thursday. And I know we're not going to have class on Thursday, but we'll do another video just like this. And we'll go into how to solve this. And yeah, that'll be it. Now, sometimes these programming problems are kind of math heavy. And they do expect you to know, you know, some math concepts like prime numbers and how might you find a prime number and so forth and so on. In fact, there's probably an easier way of doing this, and by not using the sieve, and by just looking at a different process for determining if one of these numbers is prime. Okay, so 1053, well, is that prime? Well, it looks like it's elite. 33 is elite. Well, maybe not elite. Is that a prime number? Doesn't seem like it's a prime number, does it? What is this even like? I'm not sure what elite means here. And sometimes that's all the prime numbers unmarked. Is 33 prime? 11 and 3? I don't know. I'll have to look at this. Like I said earlier, right now I'm on 3 hours of sleep and it's 11:30 at night, so I'm definitely ready to go to bed. But I did want to make a video just over the input process so that you can start solving these. And remember, where did I get this file? I just got it from the UIL Released Computer Science materials, and this link is on the Canvas for the first day. And try to work through some of these, okay? They will definitely get your mind primed to to be successful at this. If I guarantee you that if you were committed to doing one problem a day, that might be 10, 15, 20 minutes. If you were committed to doing one problem a day, by the time competition came around, you would smoke the competition as far as the programming part. The written part is a little bit different, and we are going to have to go over things for the written part. But the programming part is really where we could see a lot more points, and that we have in the past seen a lot more points. But like I said last week, there are some parts on the test that if we just knew them, then we could all three team members, and we may have two teams, for some of these competitions, because we have a lot of interest in UIL this year. But if each of the three team members could get even 70 to 100 points, so we're not even talking about half right, but 70 to 100 points, going into the competition with 250 to roughly 300 points from the test alone is huge, and you would be guaranteed to take first or second place with a decent showing in the programming section. So that's going to conclude today's video. but use the file input and output just like we did here. Hopefully you're programming this along with me, because that's really the only way to learn. But use the file in and out process here that we just showed, and try to read in some of these files and create files that you can read from. And you know, if you have problems, then you could, well, what's the best way of going about that? I guess you could email me or talk to me during class or whatever, and I'll definitely be able to address it. But that's it. So I will see y'all tomorrow, although there is no school. Okay, so I guess I'll see you on Teams.